that only comes from knowing your audience, because there is an audience for this. And typically it's women, and typically it's women who've been married and have children, have had careers and so forth. And that's our audience. And so when it falls on different ears, then obviously with different experiences, it's like reading someone else's mail, because it's not for you, so you don't quite understand it, and you're not looking at it with the correct lens. You know, you have to be looking at it from a lens of openness, from a lens of what can I get from this, um, those kind of things. And if we don't do it from that lens, then we're probably missing it, and we're probably reading someone else's mail, and it's going to lead to confusion and so forth. So I feel like Lovin Sheila, the podcast, is, you know, type and shadow of what my life has been, because not only you're not always understood, sometimes you will come under attack simply for trying to be yourself or to love yourself. But you know, what do you, but there are so many different areas that we're touching that I feel like it can be beneficial for so many women as we go on our journeys in this life. And I look at life as, I'm looking at life now more as a movie, okay? And the other day I was reflecting, and I was thinking to myself, when are we going to get to the good part? And it reminded me of this song when I was a teenager by Houdini, and I started to listen to it, just an old school rap song. Because I'm like, okay, when are we going to get to the good part? We've been through a lot. We've been through some fun stuff. We've been through our raising our children. We've been through building our life, building our family, building our career, and all this other stuff. And it's been so much effort. You know, there are some segments, or portions, or scenes that seem like they take eternity, you know, because those were the painful parts, or the difficult parts, the challenging parts. But I had to reframe it and focus and realize this is just a small scene from the movie. There are so many more, you know, so many more pieces to this film. You know, this may be the epilogue, and this may be the prologue, and this may be the first chapter, and this may be the final scene, you know. But if you put it all in the big picture, it helps you to gain some perspective, because it makes the challenging or the not so happy times that seem like they extend forever, it puts them into perspective, and you see that they're really not as long as they seem. It's just a chapter in the book, and you'll be turning the page soon, and there'll be a new chapter, and there will be a good part coming, and then there'll probably be a not so good part again. And then, you know, that's just life. Those are just the ebbs and the flows of this life. And so that's the perspective that I'm getting, because this is a long movie. Just like many people say, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And I certainly know what a marathon is. I've been there. Because at about mile 18, it's like, why did I sign up for this? What was I thinking, you know? But at mile 26, you're like, yes, I did it. And so that's pretty much how life is. And so I want to make sure that we go into this and knowing that, you know, the difficult times will come, but they will not stay. And it's a matter of how we persevere through it. And that's what I'm getting at, as, you know, I said, we stand up to it, and how we're resilient, and what helps us to be resilient. What are we calling on for our strength? You know, what are our patterns? This is what was brought to me today. What are our patterns of resilience? So all those times that we had to make it through, you know, all the difficult times, all the challenging times, what did we do? What did we lean into? What did we grab hold to? What were those things? So like I mentioned before, memorializing things. Like last week I told you I memorialized something. I took a photo of me and I recalled the feelings, and I stayed present in that feeling. But what is it that got you through? You know, what behaviors made it possible for you to continue, for you to keep standing? I remember a pastor, when I was a kid, there were these toys, they were called Weebles, and the slogan was, Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. So Weebles are like a toy, and they're like people, but they don't have legs, they're like an egg shape. So you can shake them and you can push them, and they kind of like move, but they don't fall down. They always stand up. They always pop back up. What did you lean on that made you resilient in your times? You know, it could have been a friend. It could have been a family member. It could have been your parents, your children, our God, you know, that we lean on. But there's some, or it could be books, or studying, or whatever. But there's something, there's a process, there's a pattern that we rely on that helped us through. And I just want to encourage you, whatever that is, you know, for me, it's the Word of God. It could be me reading the Word of God. It could be me listening to different preachers encourage my soul. But that's what I have to lean into, you know. And oftentimes I think I have looked for a substitute because, you know, God is, you know, He's spirit. And, you know, I can't say, God, what shall I do? You know, and just hear Him so plainly. Sheila, walk that way or whatever. You know, it's not that plain. It requires some quietness and some time with Him and some meditation, you know. And sometimes we're not patient enough to do that. Let's just be honest. We're not patient. We want a quick fix. Maybe I'll reach out to a friend or a family member and want some exchange some thoughts. And I know for me, there has been a disconnect where I don't quite connect with my feelings and what I'm thinking as far as communicating with others. And it's like we don't quite get each other. But what it's taught me is what we already knew. And that is, you know, let's see, your mama can't save you. Your daddy can't save you. Your husband can't save you. Your wife can't save you. Your sister, your brother, your child. You know what I'm saying? You have to do the work. And that comes from that alone time that you have with yourself and bringing God into it, or bringing in whatever those past practices were for you that helped you to stay resilient, to help you to stay the course, which helped you to get up and keep moving and move in a direction that was forward, you know, that you weren't looking back and you weren't carrying that baggage with you, that you were moving forward in a free fashion. So that's what I want to encourage you to. Just lean into those patterns, whatever it may be for you. You know, look back over your life and see, you know, the different areas that you have overcome and how you approached it. And you may see some ways that you approached it that were not the best ways, and you know, to make sure that you do not incorporate that you remove those patterns and work on the ones that are bringing you where you need to go, bringing you to that new place. Again, earlier I said pieces of me, and that was in my spirit when I woke up this morning. I just kept thinking of pieces of me, and the pieces of me that I have brought to 2023. You know, there are some pieces of me that I left behind, you know, in 2000 or in 95. You know, there's some things that can't go with you to the next level. So I mentioned previously there's some areas that I felt like were broken, and so that would cause there to be some pieces. And so, you know, I am trying to put it all back together again for the purpose of the longer story. And the longer story, what I found is in life, there are seasons. There's seasons to everything under the sun. And if you look at Ecclesiastes 3, 1 through 8, I'll have my producers put it up there because if I quote it, you know, I will quote it poorly. But what I'll say is, for everything under the sun, there is a season for it. So there's a time to laugh, a time to cry, you know, there's a time for joy, there's a time for pain, but there is a season for everything. So just like in our long movie, we have our epilogue, we have our chapters, we have our final scene. Likewise in life, there are seasons, and we have to, you know, go through the seasons because they will change. And so we have to be ready, willing, and equipped And so we have to know what got us through this last stormy season is what we're going to need to get us through this stormy season. And why not add a little extra to it? Gathering all these things to make a more resilient you, a more bulletproof you. That's what we're trying to do. And one thing that a word that stuck with me this week as I was just going through some things and rearranging some things, and I said I'm going to repurpose this, and it was furniture because there's so many things that I'm trying to repurpose, and I might even be repurposing Sheila. While I'm loving Sheila, maybe I'm repurposing her. It starts with me. It starts with me, like my son said, put yourself first. So that's the repurposing. And so I want us to evaluate that because, we may have some things that we're taking with us into this next chapter, into this next season, but understand we might take them with us, but we also might repurpose them. They have a different function in our life now. They may have been the star, but now they may be a supporting member of the story. So remember, it's okay to repurpose. It's okay to designate things for a different purpose. And that's what I found that, I was doing. And I was also, I was watching that, and just like that, the latest episode. And it struck me because she's, at the end, she says she's repurposing her pain. And I don't know if everything that I'm repurposing is pain. It may not be pain, maybe just some things out of utility. But maybe it's repurposing your pain, the things that used to hurt, to take ownership of it again and to take away the dagger that it has previously placed in your soul. Repurpose it to where you're defining it and you're allowing it to bring you a happy place, a joy, that you're allowing yourself to see beauty in it. What was once painful, now you can see it for something else. And that's what I got from her saying repurposing her pain. I think I've seen like a lot of trigger words for me that just stand out like pieces of me, and good part, and repurposing. And another word that falls in line with what I'm saying is your story is unwritten. And that was profound to me because here I am telling the story. But the story, like I told you before, there's no strategy, there's no particular plan other than just doing all this work and seeing where I land. So the story is not written, it's unfolding as we speak. And I want us all to embrace the fact that our stories are not written completely. I mean, like, we don't know it, how we're going to tell it exactly. All I can tell you is I want to tell my story. I don't know how the story is going to end necessarily, the step by step, each act or each scene or each chapter in the story. It is unwritten. But I want us to take it from a place of empowerment, not a place of victimhood, not a place of being defeated, but more of overcoming and seeing the positive in the situation, seeing the growth in the situation, seeing how the different situations have brought us where we are, knowledge base that we need to apply wisdom to our circumstances and our situations, and that when we're repurposing things that we have the right to do so, and we can designate whatever we want to designate for whatever purpose that suits our needs, that help us to love ourselves more fully and more completely, even though we might go through some circumstances and deal with some seasons that maybe we wish that season would not have come, or maybe we wish it would go really quickly. That we are open to where we land, and we are responsible for where we land, and we can direct it the way we like, and we can use the cinematography that we like. All these things can change. The facts remain the same, but how our perspective and how we look at things, facts remain the same. The experience remains the same. How we go through it, the degree of resilience and degree of empowerment we have is up to us. It's in our hands. We determine that part. We can determine if we're a victim or if we're a victor. We have that in our hands. And so I want us to remember to go through whatever season it is, because there's a time for everything. But just know that whatever it is, you will come out of it. Uh, you might have to dust yourself off a little bit. You might be a little scathed. There might be some ashes, but like the Word of God says, He'll give you beauty for ashes. So come out, dust yourself off firmly in the race, be empowered, know who you are, love yourself, walk the walk that's right for you, tell the story like only you can. You are empowered to procure the things that you want in your life. You are empowered to remove the things that you don't want. All these things are in your hands. Ladies, I want you to feel empowered. I want you to know that whatever season you're in, there is a plan. You win, you are victorious. So let's keep that in mind, that whatever state you find yourself in right now doesn't mean that's where you stay. The script has been written daily by you. The focus of Lovin Sheila, the podcast, is to give you the equipment to make this script turn out the way you'd like, loving yourself, and even liking yourself, and doing the things that you want to do. Just making the life that you want for yourself. Be resilient. Follow the patterns of your resilience. Know which way to go. Remember, we wobble, but we don't fall down. Believe in your strength and trust yourself, and have more days where there are more smiles, less tears, more joy, and less pain. That's what we're striving for. So I thank you again for watching.